Hey guys, can you hear me well? Right? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. I am Valeri. I'm the co-founder of StoryChief, and this is Sam, our customer success. And today we are going to talk about content marketing strategy. Why is it so important for your business, and how to implement it, and how to actually get leads from your content. So I will do the first part. I will kind of introduce the ways of content marketing, why is it important, and then Sam will continue with a real demo of StoryChief, of how to embed lead capture forms inside your stories and how to distribute your stories multi-channel. So let's just get started. I will share my screen. Can you share my screen, Sam?
Yeah, sure thing.
You don't have to, just click here, yes.
Bear with us.
Yes.
Yep, there we go. Now we can play it.
All right, and then we will.
Yeah, we'll just hide our camera for now so you don't get distracted. There we go. Great. Take it away.
All right, so awesome. Let me start with content marketing exists as long as people could speak, way long before like internet even existed. So here is an example of a company called Jello. These guys, it's a jelly candy. It was 1900, and these guys had struggles with generating their sales. So what they did as a last resort, they created a recipe book which had a main ingredient, the Jello candies, and they just handed out door to door for free, and that actually generated about 1 million in sales in a very short period of time. So this was a great example of content marketing. Another one is agriculture firm called John Deere, and these guys were selling machines, which is super boring. So they created a magazine called The Furrow. It was 1800 back then, and it was targeted to farmers with great stories and appliances of the machines and stuff like that. Today, the Furrow still exists, and it's distributed in 40 different countries and 12 different languages. So it's kind of, yeah, super successful still. Everyone knows Michelin guides. And Michelin, it was 1900. The first book was about 400 pages, and it had descriptions of trips, hotels, and car like repairs and stuff. So back then there were 2,000 cars in France, but they created 35,000 versions, copies of these books, and they handed out these books for free, of course. This is how hard they believed in car industry. And the reasons behind that was that the more people would read that book, the more they would be triggered to travel. So they would go, of course, to Michelin when their car would break or they need new tires. So times change, technology changes, but the principles are still the same. Content marketing is about storytelling. It's about creating value for your customer, and it's not about your products. People just remember great stories, and that's what you want to do. You want to help them. You want to create value. And the reason why content marketing is so important is that it costs 62% less than traditional marketing, but it brings you 3 times more leads on average. So today we are going to talk more in depth about news sites and blogging, and why you should consider this as part of your content marketing strategy. And by blogging, I don't mean boring copy and text. It's really interactive content with videos, with slideshows, with podcasts, so you keep your readers engaged. So number one reason to choose for that is trust. So content marketing is all about thought leadership. It's about positioning your company as a thought leader in your niche. And because you do that, people will think that you're an expert. And because you're an expert, the chances that they will buy from you in the future are just increased. Another great reason is SEO, search engine optimization. So blogging and SEO content is the number one method to generate leads for your website, just because Google will think of you of creator of dynamic content, and people are looking for problems online, and if you can provide solutions, they will find your blog. An example here is a travel agency called Neckerman Thomas Cook. These guys have created a total new website, Compagnon, and this website is actually full of travel stories. And they do actual research about topics, about keywords. For example, here, 4 tips to do vacation in May. And so it's not just a topic, they actually did a research and thought this would be a valuable content piece. And every story at the end leads to a main website when they can purchase that same trip. So this must be a part of your thinking. Another example, Joe Rogan. I mean, this guy, never knew him. No one knew him before he met Elon Musk, before he invited him to his show. But his traffic is just plummeted. Now everyone knows his blog. Everyone knows the podcast of Joe Rogan. This is another way. So if you blog, if your company blogs, you have 70% more leads than a company that doesn't. If you guys have a competitor that is way more involved in content marketing, he will win over time. That's just a fact. And that's because of the influence. Again, back to thought leadership story. Like, imagine you're like a blogger, like a mom blogger, and you create videos and articles about like some gadgets for babies, and you just bought a stroller, and you do a review. You just saying like, oh, that's a great stroller. It's super nice to use, easy to use, and blah blah blah. The chances that other moms that read your blog will buy the same stroller are just huge, because someone they trust just recommended it. And when we talk about content marketing and blogging, and we have to think about distribution, because there are so many different audiences out there. There are so many different channels, and a lot of people in your audience are on different channels. But also there are people that are only on like certain channels and not on the others. So we have to choose your right channel, the right time. Let's take a look of what makes a great content marketing campaign. Like, what are the examples? First of all, your content should solve a problem for your target audience. This is super important. You have to do a research. You have to solve a problem. Don't just start writing about yourself all the time, but look up of what your audience is searching for. And for you need a system, you need a strategy, you need to use tools like Uber Suggest or Google Trends, where you can actually find the search terms, search results, and so on. Another very important thing here is bring visitor further into the buying cycle. Create your funnels. Every piece of content that you produce must generate a lead. Every piece of content must have a call to action to bring them further into the funnel. Again, back to that example of this travel agency. Here's an article, but at the end of this article, there is a call to action that says, okay, I also want to do this trip. There's like an article about 10 most beautiful adult only vacation without kids, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I also want to do this trip. And when you click there, you go to their main website where we can actually book that trip. Very important. Last one here is branding. Like, create a brand identity and just stay consistent with it. Be recognizable. For example, here, our StoryChief blog, we always, each piece of content that we produce has a custom cover image, and it's always in our brand colors, brand elements, and the way we talk, the tone of voice is always the same, so we can stay recognizable. Another great topic that I want to tackle here very shortly before we move on is the content strategy. Like, how do you create a real content strategy? There are a few simple steps that I want to talk about right now. I will not dive into like all the details. We have a lot of resources for that. I will send you the link. But the number one thing is you want to identify your target customer. This is very important. You have to pick a person, not an industry, not a company, but a real person who is ready to buy now, today, not tomorrow, but like today, whose hair is on fire. And can you distinguish it? Are you selling pills and not vitamins? Like, you have to identify these people. And you have to be obsessed by them. You have to discover their struggles, what keeps them awake at night, not only on like professional level, but also on emotional level. How does their day look like? What are they stressed about, and so on. And for that, you can find a lot of persona templates online and just fill it in. Make sure you know who you are targeting. Third part is, of course, you have to determine your best content channels. Now you know your audience. You have to know where they consume your content. Is it video? Is it podcast? Is it copy? Is it the mix of all the things together? So you have to find out what it is. If you are a small company, choose one channel where you are best at. Don't go for videos if you can't produce weekly videos. Or podcast, don't go for podcasts if you can't produce podcasts on a regular basis. Choose something where you're good at. And for example, blogging is super easy and it's way low level to start with. And then you can combine like all the forms together. Once you have resources, once you're bigger, be everywhere. Do video, do podcasts, do blogging, do social, do the mix of everything. But first, choose something. And once you've chosen the channel, once you know where your audience, on which channel your audience is, you have to start brainstorming. So you can use the tools, like I already said, Ubersuggest or some other tools, where you can actually find the topics about like the pains your audience is typing in search engines. And about these topics, you have to create content, and that must relate to your product, of course, or your service. Create your funnels. Like I said, always use a call to action. Make sure you drive them to the funnel. Create awareness articles from there, lead them to more in-depth content. Lead them to white papers, ebooks, or scheduling a call or a demo. Up to you. So we have a lot of great tips on our blog, how to start with blogging, how to create a perfect blog post, how to create a great video, how to create a great podcast. So there's a lot of stuff on our blog. Also, we have 2 websites, which are contentstrategychecklist.com and contentwritingchecklist.com. And there you can also see like the steps more in depth, and also with tools, actual tools that you can use, free tools to implement into your strategy. Okay, quick overview about StoryChief. So back to example of this travel agency. So before we came in, this company, Thomas Cook, they spent a lot of time, like 80% of their time, in a very inefficient way. Content managers and marketers would like send files back and forth through mail, get feedback from all the different sources, then copy paste content to their website, distribute it. The result was that they spent 2,400 hours per month to create 200 articles, which is a lot. And today, StoryChief saved them about $340,000 per year in operations. And how do we do that? Is just simply because we create an overview. We make sure everyone knows where to find stuff. Everyone knows who's doing what and what is the ROI of the content and where should we invest more. So StoryChief allows your team to collaborate better on stories, optimize your stories for search engines, and even hire professionals to write stories for you. And once your content is approved, you can publish your story to all your channels and to hundreds of different channels provided by the system just with a click. And that's truly unique. And once it's out there, StoryChief will start tracking the performance across all the different stories in one clear dashboard. So yeah, that's very short, but Sam will show you a demo and he will show you how it works exactly, how our editor works, how to publish, and most important, how to embed lead capture forms inside your stories that connects to your CRM or to your mailing list, so we can actually gather those email addresses. So I'm leaving that over to Sam.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Let me just stop that share here and share our video again. Thank you so much to Valery for that demo, that presentation. It was very interesting. I even learned a few things as well, just listening to him. Let me just share our video again. Okay, here we are again. So yeah, thanks a lot to Valery. That was
Awesome.
very interesting. Yeah, thanks a lot. So for now, yeah, so now we're gonna take a look at StoryChief. I've got a demo account set up, ready to go, ready to show you lots of really cool stuff. So let me just share that now with you. Give me 2 seconds again. Let's see here. Okay, share. Here we are. So, okay, now here we are. We should see our StoryChief dashboard. If you can't see it, let me know. If I'm too quiet, also let me know. As mentioned, our chat is open. So if you have any questions, perhaps about Valery's presentation or about my demo, just let me know via the chat. Or alternatively, if you're watching a recording of this, you can also email us either to myself at sam@storychief.io, or if you have a question about sales, perhaps if you are a large company, you want to see how we can help you in particular, you can contact hey@storychief.io and we'll get back to you when we can. All right, so let's get on with the demo. So here we have our dashboard as mentioned. What do you see first? You first see some total stats of your story. You see also, if you scroll down, recent stories, what's published, what's still being worked on, also by who. Really interesting, but what I want to first look at is how we actually create those stories. Because yeah, in Valery's presentation, he talked about how you should create a really good, interesting story to acquire new leads. So this is definitely one of our focuses, making the editor as easy as possible so that you can easily create and publish your stories. Okay, so right, here we are in our editor. What I'm going to do for the time being is I'm going to just copy some content from our own blog. As mentioned during the presentation just then, it's a great resource if you want to learn even more about content marketing. So what I have here is a story that we actually published today. I think it's also very relevant to this particular webinar. So definitely check that out afterwards. So here we are, I'm going to copy a title in, and then I'm going to copy some text. Here we go. So, all right, so we got some title in there, some text, but yeah, as mentioned, we need to make it as dynamic and as interesting as possible. So what we should do is add some images. So whenever we press enter, we see this media bar appear. We have some options. So as mentioned, images, we also add videos, content from social media, and also those lead capture forms, which I'll be getting into in a little bit. But first off, an image, let's add one here. We can either choose one from our own computer, or alternatively, we can search for one using our free image search functionality. So I'm going to search for a content, very relevant for this webinar, I think. So let's pick this one here, which looks good enough to me. And then it's added directly into your story. From there, we can change the size if we wish. We can add links to it. We can also change the caption if we want. We can even remove it if we want to. And afterwards, we can then add some more text. We could then add, say some content from social media. For example, Twitter. So let me just find a tweet I want to embed here. How that works is it's the same for Twitter, for Instagram, for YouTube, pretty much all of our integrations. What you have to do is just find a piece of content that you want to embed and then copy the address to it. So you see here my address bar, have the title here, the URL of that content. I just paste it in, I press enter, then it's added directly into our story. So incredibly easy. So you can just focus on writing, and then all the content you add is just copy the link in, you're good to go. Okay, so that's how we can kind of create a story. Yeah, this is going to be a bit more rushed than a typical webinar, but if you are interested in seeing a more in-depth look, I will also add a link to our full onboarding demo in the email that you receive tomorrow. So look out for that. So, but what we can still do in StoryChief is we can now check out some more features. We can optimize our SEO. We can check our version history. If we want to see who's changed what, we can roll back changes. We could add editorial briefs. Lots of really cool stuff here. And then once we're ready to go, we could also say ask for approval if we wanted to see, ask maybe a colleague or maybe a boss, a manager, an editor-in-chief to look over it for us one more time. There are also a few more collaboration options in our editor. So if you check out that full onboarding demo video, you'll see that all shown in there. Moving on, we can move on to the summary tab, where we can choose our cover image. We can add an excerpt. We can change who the author is. We can add categories, tags. Again, very relevant and kind of familiar if you are using WordPress or a different CMS at present. Next thing we can move on to our audience tab, and here's where we can start to select which channels, which platforms we want to publish this story to. So in this account, I already have some set up. See here we have our free StoryChief blog, but we also have our WordPress site. We have a Webflow site as well, a HubSpot blog. Moving down, we have content hubs, RSS, Medium, social networks, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Slack, Google My Business, referral marketing to automatically share your story via email to colleagues, to friends, anybody that you want. You can just create a list and it'll be sent out to them, all in the hope that they will also share your story via their own social networks. Really useful tool that. We have then email marketing, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, pretty much any platform that uses RSS we can integrate with. Then Google AMP, so that your articles load really fast on mobile devices. And we also have Facebook Instant Articles as well. Okay, what we can then do, we can customize. We can say, okay, for this Slack post, I want to also leave a message. I can do that. So check out this new story, for example. A feature on our professional and on our custom plans is also the ability to customize the entire post. So we could add a custom image, a custom title, and also a custom description that is completely separate from the cover image and everything that we choose earlier. So in that way, if you have, say, multiple Twitter profiles or multiple Facebook pages, you can tailor it for that particular platform or that particular audience. Okay, what we can also do is we can also disable if we wish. We can say, okay, I don't want to publish to these channels. We can turn them off. And then lastly, we can set a primary channel as the main source of our story to avoid any duplicate content issues. And finally, the last step is to actually publish. So I'm going to do that right now. I see here a nice summary of everything. We can then choose confirm, and it will be sent out to all of those channels automatically. So you don't need to worry about having to copy and paste it anywhere. It's all done for you in real time here. Okay, so that's now almost there. One more to go. So once that is finished, I can then check it out. This is our primary channel here. We can then check it out together. We can see, okay, our image is there, our text is there, and our tweet as well. So everything that we created in the editor is then sent out to our platforms, to our channels, where it's displayed as it should. All right, so we can then move on back to our StoryChief account. We can then go back to our dashboard. From there, we can then check out stats. So obviously, the story we just published, it's just live. There's not many stats to look at, but we can check out one that I published yesterday. Yeah, this one here is a good one. So if I click on view report, we can see how well it did on all of our channels, how many views, so how many people read it on, say, social media, only read the excerpt of the story. A read is someone who's come across it on, say, your blog, on a channel where the entire thing is present and readable. And then impressions are a total of both of those together. So the total amount of people who have come across the story one way or another. And leads, yeah, if we had a lead capture form and someone filled in their details, this will also be shown here. Scrolling down, we can then see per channel a breakdown of how well it did on each day. So you can hover over here and see, you know, how well it performed. You can scroll across to see everything here. Again, very useful if you want to kind of gauge how well your stories are doing on a particular platform or channel. Okay, so let's now head on back to our dashboard. What I do definitely want to hit on just before we move on is how we can use lead capture forms. Because yeah, Valerie mentioned how important it is to generate leads with your content. And if there isn't, say, a CTA or a lead capture form, all of your blogging efforts may have been in vain. You need something to be able to retrieve those details of those readers and then be able to use them for a certain purpose. So how do we do that? Well, first off, we need to set up a lead capture form. So we head on over to our integrations page. And at the top, we can see, lead capture integrations. We have many options here. Say Salesforce, Salesflare, Team Leader, HubSpot. If you don't use any of these, there is also an option to use just email. So when someone fills in their details, you'll be emailed straight away with their name and email address. That's always an option. Otherwise, I have set up here, for example, a HubSpot account already. All you have to do for these is just click on add new integration. You're sent off to the platform, you authenticate it, you say okay, and it's then ready to go. And then what you can do is once you're in a story, let's just open one up right here. So that one we just created, if I open it again, we can then add that lead capture form into our story. So again, if we press enter, it'll go to a new line. We can now choose lead capture forms. And we have one here. That's my HubSpot form. I choose that one. And then it is present in that story. And then once it's published, readers can enter their details and it'll be synced over to your platform. Just to give you kind of an idea of how that looks in HubSpot, what I did earlier is I filled in my details and you can see now it's synced over to my own HubSpot account. So you see here, I filled in my own details. See my email address here. You'll see from which story it came from and all the details relevant to that. Then you can take that lead and run with it however way you wish. So very interesting. And as mentioned, if you then viewed a report, that lead will be present in that report and you know who you invited in. Okay, that's how we do lead capture forms in StoryChief. Again, as mentioned, if you have any questions during or after, or perhaps during, if you're watching this as a recording, just let us know via email. You can contact me, sam@storychief.io, and I'll get back to you. Two more things I want to quickly look at before I leave you are campaigns. Now, a campaign is a grouping of stories. Imagine if you have a certain theme you want to kind of work on, you can create multiple stories about that theme. Say, for example, on our blog currently, we are writing a lot about content marketing, like strategies. What we could do, for example, for us, we could create a campaign. We could add all of those relevant stories to that campaign, and then we can see, okay, who's working on all of those stories, how far along is the entire campaign, what's been published, what's been worked on. And then once everything's done, we can click on view and we can see, total stats for everything in that campaign. So if you are working like in a large team, this is definitely a feature that will be very useful for you. A good way of keeping track. for particular marketing pushes. Yeah, very useful. Moving on from that, we also have the content calendar. And now the campaign and content calendar kind of go hand in hand in a way. They're both great ways of keeping up to date with everything going on in StoryChief. And with the content calendar, it's kind of self-explanatory, I believe, but it does show you a very easy, clear, laid out calendar view of everything going on. So we see that story that we published today, just now, is shown here under today. And we can see which channels we published to. If I were to go back a month, I can see, okay, what did I publish in April? Yeah, in this account, you can see not a lot, but when you start publishing stories, this will fill up really fast. And it's a really great way of just keeping up to date. You can also filter by collaborator, by who's writing these stories, by campaign as well. And in addition, by type and also by status. Really, really useful. And finally, you can also sync it to your own personal calendar application. That way you don't necessarily need to log into StoryChief to see what is going on. If you sync it to your mobile device, you will always stay up to date and informed. One tiny final thing is you can also create new stories from the calendar. So say if you're an editor-in-chief and you're delegating stories to writers, if you create them in the content calendar, you can then fill in some details and you can assign a writer that story automatically and they'll be emailed so that they know. Really great, helpful thing there, I believe. Okay, so I think I have talked about everything I wanted to talk about today. Before I leave you, I should mention our pricing plans. Now, once you get started with StoryChief, you are put on our free plan, but you can always try out any of our plans for 14 days for free. But with the free plan, you can only publish once a month. Upgrading allows you to publish more, but in addition, and more crucially, it also gives you a lot more features. For example, the option to use that referral marketing I mentioned, that is unlocked from the essential plan. You can use more channels. You can, lots of really cool stuff. Moving on from our professional plan, in the professional plan, you also have the ability to use UTM tags to customize those social posts. You can send out to more people via referral marketing. And you can also use those campaign and content calendar features, which I think are very crucial if you are working in a large team to stay up to date and also be able to track all your content marketing. Okay, so I think that is everything for today. Just a quick insider detail here. We are working on a new layout for our blog platform. We expect that to be ready within a couple of weeks. And so, it'll be a completely new, improved layout, much clearer, and also be having a few new additions to their, for example, profiles, and allowing your readers to be able to sign up to a newsletter. That is all coming very soon. So stay tuned for that. We'll also be hosting a webinar just about that in the future. So we'll obviously we'll be posting that online to keep you informed. So definitely sign up for that when we announce it. We also have a different webinar planned in 2 weeks. Let me just share the link to that. One moment, please. 2 seconds. So that is now in the chat. So make sure to sign up for that. What it will be about, it will be how to set up your content marketing, how to create more leads, how to get the whole process really started and flowing well. So that should be definitely one that you should sign up to if you found this one interesting. I think that should also be definitely one for you to check out. Okay, I'll also be posting additional webinars in the future to our webinar page, which you can see here. So make sure to check back on that every now and again to stay informed and up to date. Okay, I hope to see you again very soon in a different webinar. It's been great to be able to talk to you and for us to give you that presentation at the start. That's everything from me for right now. Thanks, everyone. Bye.